Welcome back. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, has declared, not suggested, not implied, but declared that the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, is in quotes finished ahead of the 2027 elections. Well, in a blistering statement, ADC's National Publicity Secretary says no amount of defections, no last-minute alliances, no political gymnastics can save the APC from what he calls the wrath of Nigerians. Is the APC truly what has been mentioned by the ADC? Well, let's not take it as it's been said. Let's hear from the horse's mouth directly, as we have joining us for this discussion a former Minister of Youth and Sports and now National Publicity Secretary of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, joins us this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much.
All right. I think my first question would be one I had written down over the weekend when I did see a few gathering of APC members. We did see them in Kogi State. Just yesterday, we also saw them in Lagos State, where they are happily endorsing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for another term. And it seems like it's all going very, very fine, which, of course, obviously we've seen the gathering, the group, the crowd. Is ADC afraid of what's coming?
Afraid? No, we're not. We're not afraid. I mean, we've seen all this before. This is not the first time this kind of thing will happen. I mean, we could recall that just about 11 years ago, at the height of PDP's reign in this country, it was the same. What you are witnessing now was the same thing that we witnessed. In fact, it dates far back to even the period of military rule, when General Sani Abacha was in charge in this country. You remember what the late Bolaji memorably described as 5 fingers of a leprous hand, when 5 political parties in the country at the time all unanimously adopted General Sani Abacha as their presidential candidate. That was even under the military rule. And at the height of PDP's glory, around 2008, up to 2010 or thereabout, you remember almost all the state governors in Nigeria belonged to the ruling party. I can't remember the exact number now, and they controlled family majority, comfortable majority in the National Assembly up till 2015 or thereabout. At some point, the national chairman of PDP, I remember Vincent Ogbolafor, said that declared magisterially that PDP will rule Nigeria for 60 years. But here we are today. You know, so we've seen all this before, and most of these governors you see, they are not doing so because of any conviction. We all know why they are doing it. They are doing it for self-preservation, for so what some people call greed, and some of them because they felt they needed, that's the way they could protect themselves. In any case, many of them have lost the trust of their people, and even we as an opposition party will tell you that at no other time in our history in this country had state governors received so much money from the federation account, and yet you can't see any impact that these governors, majority of them, have made in the lives of their people. So many of them are unpopular, and they know they are unpopular. So, and that's why we said all these governors decamping to the ruling party is not going to save APC, because these governors are already electorally deficient. We've seen governors who after 2 terms come back to run for Senate and lost election in the same state that he had governed for 8 years. So we are not concerned in terms of what it means for our electoral prospects. We are not concerned because we know that we have the people with us, because the reality that the people are facing cannot be denied and cannot be transformed by any defection. You know, if anything, the people will read it as a gang up among the electoral, among the political elite against the average suffering Nigeria. But our people are suffering. We know that, you know, and some of these things even we as opposition party, we say that, look, some of the suffering that we talk about are not necessarily created by the Bola Tinubu administration. The only problem is that they are not willing to acknowledge that these problems exist. They continue to sell these creative statistics of progress to Nigerians to hide the reality of the people. And that's why we say all this defection is not going to save the APC, not in any part of this country. So we're not surprised. The people that you say passing vote of confidence on the president are his people. You don't expect them not to pass vote of confidence on his people. I saw the event in Lagos. I mean, those are his people, so they will pass vote of confidence. Like my family passing a vote confidence on me. It doesn't mean that the neighbor will join them in that. That's what they are expected to do. So we are not bothered about that in terms of the electoral process. But there's a side of it that we are concerned about,
Please share.
Which is the transformation of Nigeria into a one-party state. But if you want me to stop here, you can.
Yes, please go ahead. You've shared the side, the angle of you not being bothered. What you said that is the side you're bothered about, the one-party state. Can you expand further in that regard? Yeah,
exactly. The side of it that we are concerned about is the gradual transformation of Nigeria into a one-party state. Let nobody make a mistake that what is happening is just happening by chance. No, these things are not happening by chance. They have been designed and they have been deliberately implemented every single day. So in the first place, the creation of the coalition, if you recall, when we announced the coalition, we said what necessitated the coalition was the destabilization or the collapse of the legacy parties. The PDP today is more or less have been destroyed completely. They are planning a convention in November. Now somebody woke up suddenly and said, "Oh, his signature was forged," to ensure that convention did not hold. So more or less, PDP is more or less dead, and which is a tragedy for Nigerian democracy. One of the strongest parties ever experienced on the African continent have been destroyed by this administration. So that is one side of it. You have the SDP, of course, you know what's happening. You have the Labour Party. So it's the destruction and the destabilization of these political parties that have, in the first place, necessitated the creation of the coalition, and which adopted the ADC. Now, what you see is that the defection of these various political elite or political leaders into the APC is just a continuation of that grand plan to ensure that at the end of the day, by the time we arrive at 2027, there will be no platform able to challenge President Bola Tinubu for the 2027 election. And they think the plan is going well so far. And that's about political parties, but we need to look at even the system, the machinery of government. INEC, the National Assembly. The National Assembly had declared that whatever the president wants, the president gets. And it's in the National Assembly they are singing, "On your mandate we shall stand." And we all know that in a democracy, the National Assembly is supposed to be the bastion of democracy where the people run to seek protection from the excesses of the executive. You have the judiciary. Of course, we know how that goes. So what you are seeing is the gradual evolution of what you might call a totalitarian state, So let's make no mistake about it. All these things are not happening by chance, because the government knows that the only way it can hold on to power is to take total control of not only the political space, but even the administrative space, the military, the judiciary, and all that. But we've seen, like I said earlier, we've seen all this before. So it's only problem, the only challenge that we have is that Nigeria's democracy ought to be moving forward, not to be moving backward. But what we are seeing under this administration is that our democracy is being retarded and the hands of the clock is being wound back. But Nigeria will survive and Nigerians will take their country back.
Thank you so much, Honorable Abdullahi. We would like you to hold on a bit. We still have quite a lot to unpack on this conversation. We'll go on a quick commercial break, and when we return, our conversation continues. You stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central, and we're currently in conversation with Honorable Bolaji Abdullahi, the National Publicity Secretary of the ADC. Now, Honorable Abdullahi, before we went on the break, you said quite a number of things about the state of democracy in the country and, of course, politics as we inch towards the 2027 elections. Many of your critics will say, you know, the things you've said are very big on rhetoric, but the reality is different. And you've also dismissed the chances of the opposition People's Democratic Party saying they are yet to put their house in order. But the question remains that if the APC, as we currently speak, the reality is that they are administratively dominant in many states and control the levers control the federal levers, and that's why we're seeing all these defections. They often say that these governors want to plug into the center and, you know, get whatever benefits accrues to them. So my question to you is, how do you expect to translate these things you've said this morning into electoral victory? How do you communicate the message to the people when the reality is that the APC has the governors, they have the numbers?
You see, when you talk about the APC having the numbers, you are talking about the number of governors they have, or the number of National Assembly members they have. You are not talking about the number of Nigerians that will vote in 2027. As a matter of fact, how many Nigerian voters are actually card-carrying members of any political party? Majority of Nigerians don't belong to any political party, and they don't care which political party, all this thing we are doing, they don't care. Nigerians want their lives to be better, and the purpose of government is to improve the lives of citizens. Now, the question they will be asking themselves is whether in the last 2 years or 2.5 years, their lives have improved or their lives have been better in any respect. I came across a story last week and I almost had tears in my eyes. I read, I think it was the Guardian newspaper, that schools just resumed in September. The majority of the parents they spoke with said they could no longer send their children to school. They had to enroll them in home lessons. In other countries, when you hear homeschooling, you think it's children of the elite, the ultra-elite, who do they want their children to? But in Nigeria, we have found ourselves in a macabre situation. 26 years or so after the introduction of universal basic education, that it's only parents who have money that could send their children to, that could get basic education for their children. That's a disaster. We listened to the president during the October 1, October 1 Independence Day address, talking about the progress we're making in education. And the sign of progress is that we now have better education than we used to have in the past. Come on. In the past, we all know that the mere fact of attending a school meant you get education. Today, you could go to school, but you won't get education. The only way you get education is for your parents to be able to pay for private education. You know, so how does that indicate progress? And it has gotten worse in the last 2.5 years as the parents, as the purchasing power and the economic strength of parents have been eroded. So I'm saying all this to give the background to it that the reality that the people are facing cannot be denied or cannot be altered by the mere decamping of, I dare say, self-serving decamping of one governor or one senator from, in any case, don't we know that the people consider almost, in fact, all those of us, including those of us in the opposition, they believe already that the political elite are ganged up against them. They know that the campaign is also because you said, oh, they want to bring the benefit of federal government to the people. They know they are not doing anything to bring any benefit to their people. They've collected more money than any governor have collected in the history of Nigeria. How come children cannot get education in their state? How come there are no functioning public hospitals in these states. So they are already regarded as the enemy of the people. Is it the National Assembly? They see what people in the National Assembly are doing, buying 220-something million naira cars, while parents are not even sure where their food will come from. So all these people you see cannot convince the people that they are doing all this in their interest. They are doing it for whatever reason, but definitely not in the interest of the people. So that's why we said the question of whether people want APC, Nigerians want APC to continue or not, that question is settled. Nigerians don't want to continue in this trajectory. The most important thing for us here is how do we, as an opposition party, convince Nigerians that we truly represent the alternative. Not that whether we think that Nigerians don't want APC to continue. So, but I admit that we have to convince them, and we have time to do that. We have to convince them that we truly represent the alternative. So I'm not saying that Nigerians will just follow us because we say so. But we have a duty. We know we have a duty to convince them, and we are working hard on that. That we represent that alternative, and that's what we're saying about democracy. If we arrive in 2027 and Nigerians feel that APC has done well for them in the last 2.5 years, by all means they will go ahead, regardless of what we do or we say, they will vote for APC. But if they feel that the APC has done well, they should have options. They should have alternative, and it is the possibility of that option, the possibility of that alternative that APC has worked so hard in the last 2 years or so to take away from the people. And you cannot call that democracy. You cannot call that democracy. Because if the PDP government of 2015 under President Jonathan had maintained the same attitude that the government today is maintaining, there's no way APC will have come to power in 2015. And the instructions of history is there to guide us. But it's what it is.
You say that you're not worried about the APC's influence. You say that all these people who are aligning themselves with the center are being selfish, and the Nigerians had heard of the APC. Don't you genuinely feel that this might just be, there's a power of incumbency, right? They're the ruling party, they're the party in power. They have influence, whether we want to polish it or not. They have a certain level of influence. Do you worry about the influence that they wield and how that might be used in the next elections? Also, do you have hopes for or what would you say are your expectations and hopes for the new INEC chair?
Thank you very much. We're all here in 2015, weren't we? We're all here in 2015. PDP had the control of all the machinery of the state. They had the control of the INEC, control of the police, control of the military, control of the National Assembly and everything. Yet, when the Nigerian people decided that it was time to try something else, it was time to vote them out, Nigerians did vote them out. The only difference was that the man who was president at the time was gracious enough and had a sense of history to realize that what was at stake was bigger than himself and was bigger than his personal interest. That was a critical difference. So this time you asked me if we think APC will lose the next election. I have no doubt in my mind that APC will lose the next election. No matter what they do, they will lose the next election. But the question, however, is whether they will recognize, just like Jonathan did in 2015, that Nigeria is bigger than them. That Nigeria is bigger than any individual's personal ambition. For us, that is the battle that we know that we have to fight. How do we ensure that even that after they have lost the election, they will not be in a position to hold on to power by all means? That is the key point, and I am sure that even you asking me this question, know that that's where the challenge is. It's not a question of whether if we have a free and fair election, President Tinubu versus another candidate in this country today, whether we think that they will win the election. There's no way they can win the election. But the question is, will they respect democratic choice of Nigerian people? Will they attempt to hold on to power by all means necessary? That is the question that we'll have to wait to answer.
Okay. I'd like your reaction to the presidential pardon just recently, the Attorney General of the Federation has said that they have to review the list all over again and take a look at stakeholders, ensuring that they all get in and look at the numbers, the list, 175 and so on. What do you make of that presidential pardon?
You know, over the years, historically, I mean, the constitutional power that is granted to the president, the power of clemency, under the prerogative of mercy act, the president had to pardon convicted criminals, convicted people, not necessarily criminals. And all presidents, this kind of power exists in different forms all over the world. But the fundamental principles are the same. Are there possible cases of miscarriage of justice in the process of convicting this individual? That is one. Is there any social returns or social benefits that the country will gain by releasing this individual? That is two. Three, is there any, will the release of this individual strengthen national unity or strengthen national progress? That's another. So all over the world, the principles are the same, regardless of how it is structured. But what we saw under this administration, the type that we've never seen before, is that when these people, criminals, convicts, were released, were penciled down, or were pardoned by this administration, more than half of them were hardened criminals, drug traffickers. That the Nigerian Institution for the Regulation of Drugs, the NDLEA, suffered so much to get convictions against. And under the Nigerian law, this crime of drug peddling, drug trafficking, sometimes carry life imprisonment. The verdict served 2 years. And what did the president do? He pardoned them. Murderers, drug traffickers, hardened criminals. This administration pardoned them. It had never happened before. And Nigerians are like in shock. What is this? Because it was a monumental act of national disgrace. And the world began to take a second look at our country. Are we a safe haven for drug peddlers now? That we are treating them with kid gloves? Then the outrage, government now, in the context of, in the midst of the outrage, government now turned around to say, no, actually, it was just you release this list hoping to get political mileage out of it. Then it backfired. You say it was a mere proposal that you are still considering. Right. But like I said in another context, this is character. They do something today, they reverse themselves tomorrow. We can list 20 cases at least since 2027 where this government has done one thing and reverse itself the next day. As if somebody is not thinking somewhere. As if they just wake up and they do the first thing that will occur to them and wait to see whether Nigerians will swallow it or not. Do in the end what they did with the act, with the pardoning of these criminals will remain a stigma, a stain on this administration, because now they are trying to reverse themselves as they often do. So in the end, look at the family of look at the kill of the girl that the case of the girl that killed her husband. I mean, right. You did that. Then the family came around. I said, "What did you just do to us?" Now it's part of what they are now saying. Oh, they are considering. So for us, it's something that shouldn't have happened.
Thank you so much for your insights and your time, Honorable Bolaji Abdullahi. It was a pleasure speaking with you.